Hello, all you freedom-loving people. President Trump met with Netanyahu and spoke with Putin again today after reports of an attack on Putin's residence. The FBI and the DHS are ramping up investigations after videos went viral of empty daycares in Minnesota and what's going on with Silver. Okay, let's get into it. Before we start, we hope everyone had a wonderful Christmas and holiday season with friends and family. We're back here again as we enter into 2026 with more content for all you freedom-loving people. Okay, so today, President Trump and President Netanyahu met at Mar-a-Lago in Florida. Netanyahu's visit was his sixth meeting with President Trump this year. Before their bilateral meeting, while talking to reporters outside, President Trump said that he will try to get the second phase of the Gaza peace plan started as quickly as he can. He also said that Hamas must disarm in order to move quickly into the second phase.
There has to be a disarmament, that we have to disarm with Hamas. So one of the things we'll talk about, certainly, but there has to be a disarming of Hamas. Otherwise, very quickly.
Iran was also a key topic, with both sides emphasizing opposition to any revival of Iran's nuclear or missile programs.
Now I hear that Iran is trying to build up again, and if they are, we're going to have to knock them down. We'll knock them down. We'll knock the hell out of them, but hopefully that's not happening. I heard Iran wants to make a deal. If they want to make a deal, that's much smarter. They could have made a deal the last time before we went through, a big attack on them, and they decided not to make the deal. They wish they made that deal. So I think, again, they should make a deal. They want to make a deal, but sometimes that doesn't happen.
President Trump also said that Iran may be trying to rebuild its weapons capabilities at sites that are different from the ones that the U.S. attacked earlier this year. He then threatened very powerful consequences if Iran proceeds with it. President Trump also reiterated his support for Netanyahu's pardon request, claiming that Israel's president told him a pardon is on its way. But Isaac Herzog's office denied this, saying that no conversation with President Trump took place after the request was submitted. Then President Trump and Netanyahu had their meeting with senior officials, including Marco Rubio, Pete Hegseth, Jared Kushner, and Special Envoy Steve Witkoff in attendance. And just before the meeting started, President Trump said that a lot of progress had already been made in these few minutes.
It's a very good group. We've made a lot of progress already. We had about a 5-minute meeting, and we've already settled about 3 of the difficulties. So thank you very much for being here.
And after the meeting, they held a press conference. During the conference, Netanyahu said that he informed President Trump that his country's education ministry would award him the Israel Prize, which is a prestigious honor that's been awarded to only Israeli citizens for over the past 80 years.
Well, President Trump has broken so many conventions to the surprise of people, and then they figure out, oh, well, maybe, he was right after all. So we decided to break a convention too, or create a new one, and that is to award the Israel Prize, which in almost our 80 years, we've never awarded it to a non-Israeli. And we're going to award it this year to President Trump. This was announced formally over lunch by our Minister of Education, who's responsible for the Israel Prize. It's going to be awarded to President Donald J. Trump for his tremendous contributions to Israel and the Jewish people. I think it's such a fitting thing, and it would honor us, obviously, Mr. President, if you could visit Israel in that occasion on our Independence Day. But I have to say that this reflects the overwhelming sentiment of Israelis across the spectrum.
And during his remarks, President Trump said that they reached many conclusions after their meeting today.
We had a big meeting with a lot of people, a lot of talent from Israel and from the U.S. And I think we came to a lot of conclusion and conclusions. And there's very little difference in what we're looking at and where we want to be, where we want to go. And so I just want to thank you for spending time. I know you're going to be over here for a couple of days, and maybe we'll be surprising us on New Year's Eve. That would be fine.
Oh, thank you.
And it's wonderful seeing you and Sarah and your whole group. Very talented group. We've done very good work together, and it'll continue. So thank you very much, baby.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. President.
And while talking with reporters, President Trump once again threatened Hamas if they don't disarm.
If you don't see Hamas disarm in that short amount of time they're giving them, can you tell us what the next steps would be?
It'll be horrible for them. Horrible. It's going to be really, really bad for them. And I don't want that to happen. But they made an agreement that they were going to disarm. And you couldn't blame Israel. By the way, we have other countries that will come in and do it. They said, let us do it for you if they don't. Countries that were with them wanted the deal to be made, agreed that they would disarm. And now if they say they're going to disarm, that's fine. If they say they're not going to disarm, those same countries will go and wipe them out. They don't even need Israel. You know, we have many countries, 59 countries that are in agreement. This is a real peace in the Middle East. And Hamas is a small part of it, but it's still a part of it. But we have 59 countries that signed on, big countries, countries that are outside of the Middle East, as you know the Middle East. They want to go in and wipe out Hamas. They don't want Israel. They don't need Israel. They want to do it because it's the right thing to do, because they were for the deal based on the fact that Hamas pledged, they swore that they were going to disarm. Now, if they're not going to disarm, those same countries will wipe out Hamas.
Today, DHS Secretary Kristi Noem announced that investigations by the Immigration and Customs Enforcement agents are on the ground in Minneapolis right now. They are conducting a massive investigation on childcare and other rampant fraud. Noem posted a video on X that shows ICE agents interviewing people at storefronts, and she wrote, more to come.
No. We just provided the ransom. This is the location. This is where everybody comes.
Perfect. Are there any subcontractors or anything you guys deal with?
Like what?
Say like other businesses that you partner with that you use for a service of any kind, maybe transportation or anything like that. No.
We provide. Usually parents, they come like this, drop the kids, they go to work, and then we take care of the kids.
Awesome. And who actually oversees the receipt of those documents?
Usually like.
Yesterday, FBI Director Kash Patel confirmed that his office had increased resources for Minnesota to investigate claims of fraud that are exploiting federal services and programs. Patel said in a post on X that so far, federal officials have indicted 78 people and convicted 57 individuals in a $250 million fraud scheme in Minnesota. Charges include wire fraud, money laundering, conspiracy, and more. Patel wrote, the FBI is aware of recent social media reports in Minnesota. However, even before the public conversation escalated online, the FBI had surged personnel and investigative resources to Minnesota to dismantle large-scale fraud schemes that are exploiting federal programs. Fraud that steals from taxpayers and robs vulnerable children will remain a top FBI priority in Minnesota and nationwide. Kash Patel said that the recent arrests are only the beginning. He also said that authorities will keep following the money, protecting children, and expanding the investigation, with some cases also being referred to immigration officials for possible denaturalization or deportation. According to Patel, the fraud scheme resulted in the stealing of federal food aid meant for vulnerable children during COVID. This included sham vendors, shell companies, and large-scale money laundering that was tied to the Feeding Our Future network. Reportedly, the FBI officials are also investigating the Act Blue donations to Democratic candidates from the fraudulent Somali daycares. Journalist Benny Johnson quoted an FBI official on X saying that Act Blue is under criminal investigation by the FBI for fraudulent payments that may break American election law. Patel's comments came after a video went viral. The video was posted online by journalist Nick Shirley. The 42-minute video reached over 100 million views in just 2 days. It shows a so-called daycare in Minneapolis that allegedly obtained millions in state-backed funding even though the daycare was largely inactive. In the video, Shirley and another man went to the daycare facility. There, they showed that the building even displayed a misspelled sign reading Quality Learning Center.
Here in Minnesota, massive fraud is taking place within the government and the Somali population. Here, this building alone, Quality Learning Center, is a daycare, yet they spelled learning wrong and they said leering. This daycare alone in 2025 has received $1.9 million from the government. And the strange things about these childcare centers is there's no one here right now. It's midday on a weekday. And if you were to try to go inside, it's completely closed and the windows are all blacked out. No one's working, midday, children should be in here, and this place is licensed for 99 children, and this is the outside. There's no windows, no nothing, and like I said, they literally spelt the word wrong on their sign. This is open and blatant fraud taking place here inside of Minnesota. The government is complicit with this, and this is just one of the hundreds of child daycare centers here inside of Minneapolis being ran by the Somali population. It's sad that it's happening here in Minnesota, and it stinks that it's happening and it's being labeled on the Somali population. However, that's just the facts of what's happening here inside of Minnesota. $1.9 million for this daycare center that can't even spell learning right.
In response to the video, a spokesperson for Governor Tim Walz told Fox News that Walz has spent years working to strengthen oversight of state programs. The spokesperson said, "The governor has worked for years to crack down on fraud and asked the state legislature for more authority to take aggressive action. He has strengthened oversight, including launching investigations into these specific facilities, one of which was already closed." The spokesperson also said that Governor Walz has hired an outside firm to audit payments to high-risk programs, shut down the Housing Stabilization Service program entirely, announced a new statewide program integrity director, and supported criminal prosecutions. Previously, we explained that Feeding Our Future became skilled at evading oversight, and they repeatedly accused regulators of discrimination and racial bias in order to create political pressure and to delay the exposure of the fraudulent activities. Appearing on Fox News, the reporter asked Nick Shirley's opinion on him or the investigations being called white supremacist.
Governor Tim Walz is saying that you and others that are out there trying to expose this, you're doing it because you're white supremacists. What is your response to him?
Yeah, Tim wants votes. There are entire apartment complexes where white people have been pushed out of these apartment complexes because Somalians have taken over and they're inside of these towns like Minneapolis where they can go get votes from these people. And if you have 100,000 people that will vote for you because you're going to enable and let this stuff happen, and because you're going to call a white person racist for calling out facts, this is what's going to happen to a state like Minnesota. Minnesotans, they say Minnesota nice, but they are very upset. And I totally understand why they're upset, because they don't have a governor who's actually working for them. He's actually working against them.
Nick Shirley also asked President Trump to hold people accountable in Minnesota.
Do you think that things will change because of bringing attention to this, or do you think it'll be much the same, swept under the rug and keep moving forward?
Yeah, there better be change. People are demanding it. The investigations have been launched just from that video alone. And so there better be change because, like I said, we work way too hard to be paying taxes. We work way too hard to be not knowing where our money's going. And at the end of the day, the people in the government, they work for us. We don't work for them. And so it's their responsibility to hold these people accountable. And so if there's not something that's happened, people are going to be very frustrated. And so if President Trump's watching this, it's time to really get down to nitty-gritty and to make a difference in this place of Minnesota that is pretty much like Somaliland right now.
The American welfare system has numerous loopholes. One such loophole is that non-U.S. citizens can also receive social benefits. This loophole was created by President Bill Clinton's administration. As of 1997, under President Bill Clinton, the government permitted both legal and illegal immigrants to receive taxpayer-funded assistance. Prior to this, Congress passed the Personal Responsibility and Work Opportunity Reconciliation Act of 1996. This act was intended to strengthen the principle that legal and illegal immigrants come to America to work, not to collect welfare benefits. That is to say, welfare is restricted to U.S. citizens. The Trump administration has decided to reinstate this 1996 legislation. The Office of Legal Counsel at the Department of Justice issued an opinion on December 16th stating, "We now retract that 1997 opinion and offer the best reading of the phrase federal means-tested public benefit." Federal means-tested public benefit refers to welfare programs that are determined by the federal government based on means-tested criteria such as household income and assets that are primarily aimed at assisting low-income groups. However, the definition of what constitutes a public charge depends on the policy directive of each sitting president. Breitbart News reported that the Trump administration's new regulations mean that both legal and illegal immigrants will be barred from claiming benefits such as food stamps, housing subsidies, Medicaid subsidies, and numerous other assistance programs. This is also one of the methods employed by the Trump administration to encourage illegal immigrants to voluntarily return to their home countries, since many are unable to earn sufficient income in the United States to cover housing, food, healthcare, and other expenses. A statement from the Migration Research Center declared, a quarter century after PR War's enactment, 52.5% of households headed by legal immigrants who had not naturalized received welfare benefits, as compared to 35.9% of households headed by the native-born. Public charge is also a consideration when applying for a green card. In November, Citizenship and Immigration Services, which is a part of the Department of Homeland Security, formally proposed a new immigration regulation titled Public Charge Ground of Inadmissibility. This authorizes immigration officers to deny green cards to applicants who receive Medicaid or other food and housing assistance benefits. Reports from outlets such as Politico indicate that this effectively grants immigration officials greater personal discretion, allowing them to determine independently who is or may become a public charge. However, while this proposal repeals the Biden administration's 2022 regulations, it does not reinstate the version from President Trump's first term. Instead, it merely pledges to issue new guidelines at a later date. This has drawn criticism from Democrats due to the uncertainty. 127 Democrat MPs formally tabled a comment emphasizing that the regulation has created immediate and widespread uncertainty. They suggest that this proposal punishes families for caring for their children. Representative Adriano Espaillat, a Democrat of New York, who is the chairman of the Congressional Hispanic Caucus, said in a statement to The Hill, "It would scare parents away from health care, food assistance, and early education that U.S. citizen children are legally entitled to, putting kids at risk and destabilizing entire communities." Espaillat also said, "Congress never intended public charge to be used this way, and we are demanding DHS withdraw this harmful proposal before it inflicts real and lasting damage on American families." Data indicates that approximately 1 in 5 families are enrolled in the Medicaid program, while roughly 1 in 8 Americans receive food stamp benefits. These individuals are, in theory, legally resident in the United States. Nevertheless, only American citizens are entitled to welfare benefits, and there are still other unreasonable aspects of the American welfare system. Last week, the Wall Street Journal published a column highlighting the most unreasonable aspects of the American welfare system. The government doesn't count any refundable tax credits or benefits that aren't paid in cash as income to the recipient. The result is that households receiving benefits end up with a higher income than those earning over $60,000 a year through diligent work. This article was co-authored by Phil Gramm, the former chairman of the Senate Banking Committee, and by John Early, the former Assistant Secretary of the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics. The article takes a single parent with 2 school-aged children who earns $11,000 annual from part-time work as an example. The government considers this household in poverty. This would make the household eligible to receive benefits totaling $53,128. To be specific, the article listed the benefits the family would get. It would receive treasury checks of $3,400 in refundable child tax credits and $4,400 in refundable earned income tax credits. The family would also receive food stamp debit cards worth $9,216 a year, $9,476 in housing subsidies, $877 of government payments for utility bills, $16,033 to fund Medicaid, $3,102 in free meals at schools, and $6,624 in temporary assistance for needy families. Including income from part-time work, the household's final total income was $64,128, which is equivalent to 254% of the poverty level. Meanwhile, the welfare family would be eligible for another 90 small federal benefit and sundry state and local welfare programs. However, according to the Congressional Budget Office and other independent researchers, a hard-working middle-class family earning $64,000 receives no benefits whatsoever. This situation is extremely common, applying to 4/5 of all states across the United States. So is this fair? Of course it's not. The consequences are clear too. Low-income individuals simply stop working altogether. Over the past 50 years, the proportion of working-age people in the lowest 20% income bracket has fallen from 7 in 10 to just 1 in 3. In other words, half of those low-income individuals who previously worked have chosen to stop, and now they rely solely on benefits. But we cannot blame those who choose not to work for being lazy. It's the system that encourages them not to work. The article also says, according to the Congressional Budget Office and other independent researchers, when all means-tested payments are counted as income, most welfare recipients have incomes that put them in the middle class. And the proportion of poor people in the U.S. falls from more than 10% to less than 1%. Across the past half-century, real federal welfare spending has soared to 765%, which is more than twice as fast as total federal spending. The federal government spends $1.4 trillion annually on welfare, accounting for 49% of discretionary federal expenditure. If these funds were instead used to directly supplement the poverty line, it would actually save 2/3 of the deficit. Elon Musk also retweeted this article. This article exposes a colossal black hole that has been overlooked for decades. America does not have a genuine poverty problem, but rather it has a problem of statistical falsification. Politicians turn a blind eye to this because the higher the poverty line figure, the easier it is for them to expand welfare programs to buy votes. So we may observe that if the Trump administration plugs the loophole that allows non-citizens to accept benefits, this will also reform welfare provisions for low-income groups. President Trump held talks with Ukrainian President Zelensky at Mar-a-Lago in Florida yesterday, lasting nearly 3 hours. At the subsequent joint press conference, President Trump stated that the talks had made significant progress toward ending the war, and he expressed confidence that a peace agreement for Ukraine was nearing completion. President Trump said, "You could say 95%, but I don't like to say percentages. I just think we're doing very well. There are 1 or 2 very thorny issues, very tough issues, but I think we're doing very well. We made a lot of progress today." Zelensky also stated that significant achievements had been made. He emphasized the substantial progress they made on security guarantees. He said that the US, Europe, and Ukraine security guarantees are almost agreed. As for a timeline to finalize a potential deal, President Trump said that the best case scenario is in a few weeks. President Trump said that the thorniest issue was the land, referring to the Donbass region, and Zelensky confirmed that the two leaders did not agree on what would happen to the Donbass region. Russia has demanded that Ukraine relinquish the entire Donbass region, over which Ukraine currently retains control of certain territories. But Moscow controls about 75% of the Donetsk region and about 99% of the neighboring Luhansk region, which are collectively known as Donbass. Hours before his meeting with Zelensky, President Trump said on Truth Social that he spoke with President Putin yesterday morning in what he characterized as a good and very productive telephone call. The Kremlin spokesperson Dmitry Peskov told journalists this morning that Moscow agreed with President Trump's assessment that talks to end the war were in their final stage. He also said that President Trump and President Putin will hold another phone call very soon. Then the call came sooner than expected at 8 a.m. today. President Trump spoke again with President Putin. At a press conference with Netanyahu, President Trump told reporters at the top of the meeting that he and Russian President Vladimir Putin held a call this morning following the meeting yesterday with Ukrainian President Zelensky on the Russia-Ukraine peace plan. President Trump confirmed that the Russian president raised what he said was a Ukrainian drone strike on one of Putin's presidential palaces that occurred after the Zelensky meeting. President Trump's comments came as Russia's foreign ministry claimed today that Ukrainian forces attempted to strike Putin's residence in the city of Novgorod. So this prompted the Kremlin to reassess its position on peace talks. Russia claims that Kiev used 91 drones to attack Putin's residence in the region, but Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov said that all drones were destroyed. So far, it's not clear whether Putin was in the building at the time. Lavrov called the attack state terrorism, and he said that Ukrainian targets had already been selected for retaliatory strikes by Russia's armed forces. Lavrov also said that he would not leave the negotiations. Russia would not leave the negotiations, but Moscow's position will be reviewed. In response, President Zelensky rejected the claim and said that Russia is fabricating the story to justify strikes on government buildings in Kiev. Today, Zelensky also said that the U.S. has offered a 15-year security guarantee to Ukraine as part of a proposed peace plan. But he said that he would prefer if the United States would commit for as long as 50 years to deter Russia from any future land grabs. So far, the details of the security guarantees are still unclear, but Zelensky said that they would carry legal force. He also said that bilateral agreements with the Europeans will also be ratified by parliaments of those countries, which will give them the same legal force. Zelensky also said that he wants the 20-point peace plan to be approved by Ukrainian voters in a national referendum. The precious metals market witnessed a robust surge over Christmas. Silver prices have now surpassed the significant threshold of $77 per ounce, while in China, Shanghai silver prices climbed beyond $80 per ounce. Spot gold, silver, and platinum have all reached record highs, with market analysts noting that this surge is underpinned by both fundamental and technical factors. This unprecedented rally indicates that capital is accelerating its flow into tangible assets and safe haven markets as the year draws to a close. Market expectations of an imminent shift in monetary policy also constitute a primary driver. Furthermore, the United States' imposition of a blockade policy on Venezuelan oil, alongside its campaign against the terrorist organization ISIS in Nigeria, has increased risk-averse sentiment. Commodity analyst Sujin Kim told Reuters that the current surge is also underpinned by substantial purchases from central banks, from robust inflows into gold ETFs, and from investor concerns over currency depreciation and mounting national debt. Spot gold has surged nearly 72% this year, hitting a record high of $4,530.60 per ounce on Friday, and gold is poised to deliver its strongest annual performance since 1979. The price of platinum has surged by around 165% year to date, climbing by 7.8% on Friday alone. And since platinum is an essential material for manufacturing automotive catalytic converters, the price hike is also partly due to supply constraints. But silver has emerged as the front runner in this year's precious metal market, with prices surging by 158% since the beginning of the year and significantly outperforming those of gold. This is partly due to structural supply shortages stemming from the United States' designation of silver as a critical mineral and robust industrial demand for the metal. According to JM Bullion data, spot silver prices had climbed to approximately $80.30 per ounce by the early hours of December 29th. The rush to snap up silver has been particularly frenzied in China. Chinese investors have long favored precious metals. With gold and silver prices soaring to jaw-dropping historical highs and social media stoking the frenzy, the entire Chinese market has descended into a buying frenzy. The Chinese investor-frenzied buying spree of precious metals has triggered extreme countermeasures in the investment sphere. China's sole silver-focused fund, the UBS SDIC Silver Futures Fund, was compelled to halt accepting new clients from December 29th onward after repeatedly issuing risk warnings that went unheeded. China's professional institutions believe that the rise in silver prices cannot be sustained. For China's retail investors, domestic investment options are limited and information cannot circulate freely. Coupled with the authorities' long-standing manipulation of the stock market, this has caused the Chinese public to misinterpret official and professional institutional information. The more professional institutions attempt to control the market in China, the more the public's buying frenzy becomes irrational. On December 27th, a video was circulated on social media showing customers in Shenzhen, an economic development zone in southern China, paying a premium for silver bars. When the shop failed to deliver the silver promptly, the customers became upset, causing a commotion that attracted a crowd of onlookers. Late that night, silver surged again, with intraday gains exceeding 10%. The accumulation of various reports has intensified public panic. A nationwide rush to hoard silver has emerged in China and is now spreading into rural areas. People take pride in owning silver. Experts are attempting to calm the public. Professionals have cautioned that the more frenzied the silver bull market becomes, the greater the number of people who will ultimately suffer losses. Yet, in an era of diminished trust, such voices are easily drowned out by the clamor of panic buying. And that's a wrap for this episode. Thank you so much for your support of Front Page. Please remember to leave a comment below the video. This is really helping us to be seen all around the world. The more people who watch Front Page, the more freedom-loving people the world will have. And please hit the like button and hit the notification bell after subscribing. And please share this video with your friends and family because everybody deserves to know the truth.